Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world. And this is a shout out to Michaela. And she's given me a link to a very lengthy article which I will read out to you because it's really, really important stuff. It just shows how corrupt the transaction involving farm transfers is. You know, we're talking about farms going into BEE. Absolutely incredible. But she summarizes it very well for those who don't want to listen to the whole thing. Michaela says, today we learn a new term, farm flipping. Remember that word, farm flipping. The article exposes the corrupt underbelly of what is going on under the guise of land reform. Yet we hear hippo eyes continually sparsing how land reform hasn't happened, how it needs to happen to bridge the inequality divide, how he will implement land reforms to benefit the poor that are hungry for farmland, which includes expropriation without compensation. It's a money game. Everyone wins except the farmer, the farm, and the farm workers. The players. Who are the players in this farm flipping? The Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, the politically well-connected BEE-registered compliant companies, Dutch Agri Consortium, anyone else with greasy palms. Ramaphosa, hippo eyes, he has been keeping this under his tight wraps, and you'll see how Ramaphosa is fully aware of the corruption that's going on. He was told very early this year about it, and he's taken no action. So, think about that when you listen to his inaugural speech. And of course we have Zuma. President Zuma, whose name comes up in all this as well, which is not surprising. The aim of the game, farm and money laundering, involving huge amounts of money. The mantra, these thieving cadres term it Africanizing farmland. So anyway, look, I'm going to attach basically the article to this, it is something for those who are in the farming industry. This is a must listen to. All right, guys, here we go. And I do apologize in advance for Bonsai, who you might hear in the background. He's having a seniors moment, so just ignore it. Now, this video is about the farming community in South Africa and how the ANC government is absolutely destroying the agricultural industry in South Africa. What I'm going to start with is a few images. I'm not going to say where they come from, but this is a failed BEE project. And you can see there's a huge structure which used to be covered in plastic and stuff like that, where the local Africans would be growing crops. And of course, because of total incompetence, no understanding of what they had to do, the whole thing has now become just a single frame with the plastic and all the other coverings gone, and it's totally useless. This typifies what is going on all around South Africa today. I've seen so many examples of farms that have been passed on to black farmers, and within a year, the farmers or the tractors are all rusted up. The vehicles haven't been used. Nothing growing on the farms. They're a complete lost cause. This is happening all over South Africa right now. Now, there are literally billions of rand being thrown into this wasted industry, which is rather like throwing money into a cesspit because it's not being used. While you've got farmers who have generations of experience in places like Bultfontein, who are in a disaster area, who are just about to be kicked off their farms by banks through repossession, and the South African ANC government hasn't sent them 1 cent. Now, Trump, I just put a video up a couple of days ago. He has actually thrown $16 billion towards the farmers in the US because they have been facing hard times. And it's not just drought, it's because of the trade war with China. I get all that. But he has actually supported them. Ramaphosa has just looked the other way. So let's have a look at those photos first of this failed BEE project. And God knows how much this cost when you know how much is taken off the top. Now, the video that I showed before this was one of this Zimbabwean farmer basically being told he's got to vacate half his farm because of a well-connected son of a minister, a Zimbabwean minister, who's now just claiming it. Claiming it. We're going to follow that story, as I said in the earlier video. But this is where everything comes into context. And I'll tell you the story. The dream was to build a farm that would be a model of black farming excellence with farm workers and others in the valley. Monello George Bongo's eyes drift to the windows overlooking vineyards as far as the eye can see. The struggle stalwart and veteran activist sighs before he speaks again. But because we refused to be manipulated, we were thrown into a morass of hunger, frustration, and despair. He is sitting in the lounge of a farmhouse on a table grape farm in Dedouans, called Nirwanda. It is hugged on all sides by the enormous mountains of the Hex River Valley, the heartland of agricultural prosperity in the Western Cape. Now, you might recall Dedouans is where those trucks have been having rocks thrown through their windows so that, you know, they have to stop and then they go and attack and loot them. It's not a safe part of the world. But the vineyards on Nirwanda are buckled and gnarled. There will be no harvest this year, or possibly even next. This once flourishing state-owned farm should have been one of land reform's success stories. Instead, it has become an emblem of its failures. The roots of its rot are allegedly located at the door of the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, which is charged with gatekeeping land reform, in cahoots with an apparently unethical agri-business. Nirwanda falls under the government's proactive land acquisition strategy, or PLAS. This is a policy whereby government purchases farms in distress and leases them to emerging black farmers until the farms become self-sustainable. Do you hear that? So, they purchase farms which are in trouble. Now, if you look what's happening in Bultfontein, you've got about half of the farmers in Bultfontein who are under threat of getting a repossession order from the banks and then having their farms auctioned off. These are the sort of farms that could well be given to well-connected black mates who have absolutely no idea how to farm in what is an arid area. Can you imagine what that's going to do to the ability of South Africa to grow crops? You're talking huge tracts of land. You know, this is starvation is in the stars. And when Ramaphosa said on Inauguration Day that we're going to take the whole community out of poverty, he lives in some kind of a Fruit Loop territory. No wonder we call him Hippo Eyes. Yeah. I think that kind of says something, doesn't it? Anyway, that's a little rant. Let's get back to what's happening here. Coupled with PLAS is the Recapitalization and Development Program, known as RADP, where to make the farms commercially profitable, a strategic partner or agribusiness is required to mentor the emerging farmers, provide a business plan, and assist with skills training in marketing and export. But bar some exceptions, the RADP has been an unmitigated disaster, with the Land Department allegedly hemorrhaging funds into the agricultural holdings of comrades and politically connected corporates countrywide. These accrue substantial financial benefit for the strategic partners, but negligible or disastrous consequences for the farms and intended beneficiaries. Now, let me just raise something here. I'm not saying this. Malema has said this. He has said he has got several farms which are in the names of trusts that are now being run by white farmers. My God, if they knew who their boss was, they would be getting out of there really quick. But that's where South Africa is going. It is a complete sham. Okay. Ruth Hall, a member of Cyril Ramaphosa's Land Reform Advisory Panel and a professor at the University of the Western Cape's Institute for Poverty, Land and Agrarian Studies, said, billions of rand earmarked for the development of an agrarian economy has been squandered across all provinces. The panel was appointed in December 2018 to research the problems of land reform. Her findings point to a shocking scenario of the capture of land reform to the elite. I'll just repeat that, sorry. Her findings point to a shocking scenario of the capture of land reform by the elite. What we have found is that the politically connected individuals and companies are getting lucrative contracts from the state to take over land reform farms with subsidies that should be directed to impoverished rural farm dwellers and emerging commercial farmers. They are fleecing the state in collusion with the politicians at the most senior levels of land reform, and they are getting away with it, she adds. This is making a mockery of land reform. Several former and current officials in the Land Department who requested anonymity complain of a culture of patronage where favours are meted out to Luthuli House comrades in farms, and orders are issued to officials to carry them out in flagrant violation of government policy. They have provided documents, emails, and the findings of forensic investigations into blatant abuses of power perpetrated by officials on state-owned farms in collusion with corporates and comrades alike. This alleged corruption has been the focus of a 4-year investigation by SABC Current Affairs Programme Special Assignment and is now being published in the Mail and Guardian. The elite capture of land reforms date back to the early 2000s, but seems to have spiked between 2009 and 2018 when Jacob Zuma became president. Why are we surprised? And Gugile Mtshweni was appointed Minister of Rural Development. Nwanda was originally 2 portions of a farm called Delahaye. In 2007 they were sold a company called Quickvest 427. A search on the property information website Windeed revealed that Quickvest is one of a myriad special purpose vehicles or shelf companies for a multinational Dutch agribusiness called South African Fruit Exporters, or SAFE, and its so-called Black Economic Empowerment partner, Bono Holdings. Documents confirm that in 2005, SAFE provided an interest-free loan to Delahaye, offering to market and export its produce. But the multinational suddenly recalled the loan, and when the former owners couldn't repay the debt, SAFE purchased the farm through Quickvest for 7.3 million rand. In 2012, Quickvest sold the farm to the government for a whopping 19 million rand. SAFE, operating under the banner of Bono as its strategic partner, subsequently applied for government funding to run the farm and reap the profits of the harvest. This practice is known as farm flipping, buying farms in distress at low prices, selling them to government at heavily inflated prices, and returning to the farm as strategic partners to further profit, allegedly often at the expense of the intended beneficiaries of agricultural land reforms. This practice is not exclusive to the multinational, but from the findings of an incriminating forensic investigation conducted in 2016, SAFE, or SAFE, has perpetrated the flipping formula on farms countrywide, allegedly applying very little capital into the farms and allegedly swindling the intended beneficiaries while making huge profits from the export of the produce to overseas outlets. The report, simply titled Nwanda Investigation, was done by a forensic company commissioned by the Land Reform Department's Forensic Investigation Directorate. In the case of Nwanda, the intended beneficiary is the Big Five, a registered farming cooperative that includes chairperson Bongo, Mandalilo Mziya, who is financial manager, and Mfo Maloa, a qualified agronomist who used to work for the Department of Agriculture, and Administrator Weziwe Devengu. Initially, the DRDLR, Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, welcomed our application for beneficiary status called recalls Mzea. In addition to government's plan to Africanize the predominantly white-owned farms in the Hex River Valley, they approved of our commitment to gender parity. Maloa added, "We went through all the processes, and because of our potential managerial and farming skills, we were initially regarded as ideal beneficiaries." As official documents confirm, the Big Five was formally approved as the Nwanda lessees in July 2013 by the National Land Allocation and Recapitalization Control Committee. But 6 years later, they still have no lease, no government funding, the farm has been vandalized, and the vineyards are damaged. As confirmed by internal correspondence within the Western Cape office of the Lands Department, the Big Five is now facing eviction from the farm. The reason? According to its 4 remaining members, the answer is simply 2 words: SAFE and Bono. We have been rattling certain cages by opposing the presence of SAFE and Bono on the farm, says Devengu. This does not suit greedy officials who are getting kickbacks, so their strategy is to try and divide us and rule. When approached for comment in January this year, SAFE replied, "Read your questions to SAFE. SAFE declines to comment. Subsequently, requests for comment have been ignored." Government policy stipulates that land reform beneficiaries may choose a strategic partner or agribusiness. The Big Five members allege that SAFE and Bono were imposed on them by the Land Department, despite evidence of financial mismanagement and the lack of transparency. They accuse former Minister Nkwetini of, in 2014, sending Dumisani Lufalangela to bully them into taking on the multinational, despite the cooperative expressed desire for another strategic partner. Lupungela is described as Nkwetini's henchman by the Big Five, other would-be land beneficiaries, and current and former officials in the Land Department. The Land Department's former head of security, Lupungela, has a controversial track record. Once the head of national intelligence in both the Western and Eastern Cape, he was dismissed in 2002 because of his improper association with former mafia boss Vito Palazzolo. He has since been involved in several questionable business deals and directorships, notably together with Zuma's nephew Kulubusi Zuma in the Aurora Mines debacle. Lupungela calls the shots in the DRDLR, recalls a former official. He acted on direct instructions from the former minister himself. Lupungela has since left the department and joined Nkwetini, who in January 2018 was appointed Water and Sanitation Minister. Neither he nor Nkwetini has responded to requests for interviews, despite requests for comment going all the way back to 2016. The Land Department in some cases acknowledged receipt of the questions but never replied. The most damning finding against the multinational are contained in a forensic report that was conducted into Nwanda during 2016. The report found that SAFE and Bono were in fact one, that the directions of both were interchangeable, and that through dozens of shelf companies they had succeeded in concealing the dominant role of the multinational. The report found that the overt violations of the Public Financial Management Act have been perpetrated and that the millions of rand that were owed to Nwanda. It recommended that criminal investigations be conducted into alleged corruption between the multinational officials within the Land Department, as well as on other farms countrywide where SAFE and Bono have allegedly looted the financial fruits of the farm's harvest. These recommendations would have gone to the department and Nkwitini. Hall says SAFE and Bono are basically selling to themselves and failing to plough back dividends to the farms from which they receive government funding. They declare a loss at the farm gate, but by owning the pack houses where the fruit is packaged and logistic companies through which the fruit is exported, they control the value chain and are able to manipulate pricing and profits. In 2017, SAFE and Bono left the farm and others that they are alleged to have mismanaged. At Nwanda, electricity and water were cut off and the workers had to get jobs on other farms to survive. A small harvest was sold in 2018. The land is now dead. Hall laments valuable vineyards worth tens of millions of rands are going down the drain. This is despite the beneficiaries having the skills to turn things around, she says. What they're desperately in need of, proper government support to make the farms productive again. In that same month in 2017, Zuma issued a proclamation mandating the Special Investigative Unit, or SIU, to probe 6 farms, 4 of which were managed by SAFE and Bono in the Western Cape. But these farms represent merely the surface of the cesspool that has reduced land reforms to a contradiction in terms. Between 2017 and 2011, the SIU probed 148 farms, finding hundreds of millions of rands lost in wasteful or fraudulent expenditure. In March 2018, the SIU handed a report to Ramaphosa in which it recommends 42 alleged culprits, including senior politicians, be prosecuted for widespread land reform scams. But to date, no action has been taken. In the wake of Nwanda forensic report, a senior official in the Land Department, Babalwa Magoda, was suspended. She has since been reinstated. Little else seems to have happened. For SAFE and Bono, it is business as usual, but for Nwanda's Big Five, the fruits of corruption in the land reform have yielded a bitter harvest. Accountability for these scandals lies at the highest levels of the department, says Bongo. Instead, we have some collateral damage in one of the biggest travesties of post-apartheid South Africa. He adds, we have been through the worst, but we are still here and more determined than ever to make Nwanda the farming success we always dreamt it would be. But as Hall and the President's Land Reform Advisory Panel have found, too many people are profiting from abusing land reform for the solutions to be quick or simple. South African Fruit Exporters, or SAFE, was established in 1997 by Dutch nationals Anton de Vries and Erwin Boerland in the wake of South Africa's deregulation of the fruit industry. SAFE's holdings company is in the tax haven of Mauritius, and it has earned a fortune in revenues from exports worldwide. Through its so-called Black Economic Empowerment, BEE partner Bono Holdings, which was formed in 2007, SAFE has also earned scores of lucrative contracts on state-owned farms countrywide. The chief executive of Bono is Evans Nvondo. SAFE and Nvondo each hold 50% of the shares in the company, with Nvondo's being controlled through his BEE company, Fresh Solutions Trust. Nvondo and de Vries are also allegedly the masterminds behind the farm flipping formula, a model they initiated on farms in the Eastern Cape during the mid-2000s, where Gugile Nkwinti was MEC of the province. SAFE and Bono are linked to more than 80 corporate entities and to at least 66 farm properties, whether as managers or purchasers under shelf companies. Isn't that extraordinary? As I say, that earlier video about that Zimbabwean farmer, where the courts are now telling him to get off his own land, the corruption is at the highest level. And black privilege is basically parasites like this mob. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Click the bell to be kept informed, and have a great day. Bye.